I'm proud of you, first of all, because the front row is neither sad nor lonely today. So that doesn't happen very often. I like my front row people. So how many of you guys are new to Lift the Rock? Just, okay, well, excellent. So the whole premise behind Lift the Rock, for those of you that don't know, is to connect the existing business community with the early stage companies, the startup community. I feel like I might be too close to my other microphone friend there, so I'm moving over. So as always, we want to give a very special thank you to our friends at the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. They were instrumental in getting the Venture Center off the ground, along with our fearless CEO and board members. And then also I want to give a special shout out to Janny King. I don't know if you guys know, if you've ever been in a frat house, it's not entirely different from a place in which tons of entrepreneurs wander around. So Janny King keeps us as clean as they possibly can, and we appreciate them for that. Every single week, our Wi-Fi is provided by a local internet provider, Broadband Development Group. Their product is called Hyperleap. We're very proud of them because they're one of our very own startups, and their CEO happens to also be our executive in residence here at the Venture Center. Anyhow, the screaming fast internet can be accessed at Venture Center guests, and the password is Real Ventures. You will get a little splash page, kind of like being in a hotel. Just tell it, yes, yes, I understand. I really want to get on this internet, and I know that when I become a Venture Center member, I'll be able to use something even faster. So quick little question, what's the one thing that entrepreneurs need to be successful? Those of you who've been here know what I'm going to say, right? So if capital is helpful, you usually hear that. What's that? Customers are helpful. And how do you get capital and customers? Connections. That's right. That's right. So we're going to specifically ask you guys to help us make some connections today. You see the little cards in front of you. They may say that Lift the Rock occurs on Wednesday on the cards. It doesn't. It's on Tuesday, as you know, because all of you lovely people are here. We believe strongly in being good stewards of our funds, and so we are using up the remainder of the Wednesday cards, but Lift the Rock occurs on Tuesday. Just want to clear up any confusion there. So Soteria today needs to meet these kinds of people. He's specifically looking to meet investors. He's looking to meet auto industry contacts. He's looking to meet potential distribution partners and installation partners. And Kyle, the CEO, is going to tell you guys all a little bit more about that in just a minute. So while he's doing his pitch, I want you to be thinking, who do you know that Kyle needs to know? Do you know somebody in the auto industry? I mean, I don't know, do you know, what, Mark McClarty? Do you know Mark McClarty? Because if you know Mark McClarty, my man Kyle needs to meet him. That's what I'm saying. So if you can make that happen, that would be very helpful to everyone. But people like that, okay? So who do you know that is a car salesman? Who do you know that owns a car dealership, that manufactures auto parts, that can connect to any of the people on the screen? Insurance guys would probably be another one. Insurance ladies, insurance people. That's what I should say. Anyways, I just want to make sure that you start thinking about that because I'm going to call on you to specifically answer that question a little bit later on. So we do enjoy a little bit of social media love during Lift the Rock. I'm going to ask that you use the hashtag Lift the Rock all together. You can find the Venture Center at Venture Center, and Soteria has been a little bit quiet thus far, so they don't have their own Soteria Twitter handle yet, but you can tweet to Holloway Kyle, which is the CEO, and use their hashtag DriveAlong. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand this off to our friend Kyle, the CEO of Soteria, and as he comes up, you know what to do. Give the man a little love, right? There you go, sir.
Thank you.
You good?
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here this morning, and I'm very excited to be able to present today. I just want to thank Jessica and the Venture Center and Lift the Rock for the invitation to be here. As she mentioned, Soteria has really been somewhat in stealth mode for its life so far. We're right now starting to transition into a time of being able to move into commercialization. So just to set the context for the dialogue this morning, we are pre-money. We're in the middle of a strategic round right now, raising a strategic round that will take us from our current alpha testing, where we're live in market with alpha product, but want to be able to commercialize that, bring it to scale, and then go to market. And so we're in the middle of that. So when we talk about revenues, for us, it's projections right now. We're at that stage where we're just about to enter into the market. So just to give that context for you. So when we talk about Soteria, we're really talking about empowering the parent. And that'll become apparent as I kind of present our product. Our product name is Drive Along, okay? So what keeps parents up at night? First of all, how many parents do we have in the room today? All right, so a lot. Well, I actually have 8 children, and 4 of them fall into the teenage or above category and are drivers. And so this is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure for those of you who have children that are reaching that age, they're teenagers that are starting to get into vehicles, this will probably resonate with you as well. But what keeps us up at night? There's 1.3 million accidents involving teen drivers annually. So every year there's 1.3 million. And that's out of a population of about 21 million teenage drivers. So we're looking at a fairly significant number that are actually involved in accidents. Of those, nearly 300,000 of them are injured each year. So it's not just the inconvenience factor of having an accident, it's actually involving an injury. So there's medical issues, there's insurance issues, there's an economic impact. Not only that, but there's also the social impact, because oftentimes it's not just a single individual. Teenagers have a crazy habit of wanting to ride together. And so many of these accidents involve multiple teens, not just the driver. And so there's a lot of social impact to that as well. Multiple families are impacted. 1 in every 8,000 teen, now this is not those that are just involved in the accidents, but of that 20 million, 1 in 8,000 is in a fatal car accident and is killed. Okay, that's a huge number when you look at that, and that's an annual statistic. And drivers that are at ages 16 to 19, which is really what we're targeting initially with our MVP, they're 3 times more likely to be in a fatal car accident than those that are just 20 and older. So this is a huge issue for families because it has some very, very traumatic impact on both the family, the community, and like I said, there's even economic impacts related to medical costs and commercial vehicle damage and all of that. So this is what's keeping parents up at night. But the reality is it's largely avoidable. Okay? Alcohol-impaired driving accounts for 32% of the age 15 to 20-year-olds that are killed. Alcohol is involved. So alcohol-impaired driving is a major issue in that age range. If you'll see here, this statistic really surprised me. 40% of 10th graders and 50% of 12th graders are self-reporting that they've been drinking alcohol in the previous 30 days. So alcohol use in our teen population is still at epidemic proportions. It's still a major issue. Despite any kind of legislation or laws that are passed, it's still happening. And those are the same teenagers that have access to vehicles. They're driving themselves to school, to work, and just around town. Also, the rise of, obviously, the mobile phone, texting and driving, even just talking on your cell phone while driving. Phone distractions, that cause about 6,000 deaths per year. Now, that's in the total population, but of those, some of those are teen drivers, and 500,000 injuries every year. So you start compounding these, because these are all different distractions that can all happen simultaneously. They can be having impaired through alcohol. They can be texting on their phone while they're driving. The failure to wear seatbelts. So you see here, 6 out of 10 fatalities occur because the teenager was not wearing a seatbelt. And then lastly, you see here occupant distractions. As I mentioned earlier, teenagers like to ride together, and they also like to have fun. They're goofing around, and that's very distracting to the driver. It's probably not that surprising that you see that 71% of males versus 40% of females say that their other occupants distracted them. Males tend to be more single track in our mindset and our capability. So if they start joking around, they lose sight of the road and aren't really paying attention, and they don't have that capacity as much as females to be multitasking, and so that becomes an issue. So all of these are factors that lead to that high incident rate, and that's something that we're trying to address at Soteria. So what is our product? Well, it's really an ecosystem. We call it Drive Along. And in there, our core component, as you'll see in the middle here, is the smartphone app. We have a user app that's installed on the student or the teenager's phone, and it communicates to our in-vehicle, our onboard vehicle system, which I've got a sample here. It's a device that looks just like this, and it's installed in the vehicle, preferably under hood, but it can be installed under dash as well. And then that app also speaks to a Bluetooth breathalyzer. So as you see, this isn't the big clunky breathalyzer that you may have seen that's court mandated to adults. This is a nice compact Bluetooth enabled breathalyzer. And so those two are monitored and communicated with from our app, and then the app sends everything via the data plan into the cloud, into a real-time dashboard that the guardian or parent has access to. And so they're able to see what's going on based on the smart relay device, which is in the vehicle, as well as the use of the breathalyzer. We're also capturing telematics along the way, so we're capturing GPS, we're capturing speed. All of that information is being pushed to the cloud. And then they're able to monitor their account through a Shopify back office where they can renew their subscription. It is a subscription-based model. So that's what our product is when we talk about Drive Along. So this is a view of the dashboard. This is what the parent or guardian is able to log into and see. And there's a few components here that we'd like to point out. First, you have the ability to get visual verification. So when the teenager is wanting to start their vehicle, if you're not familiar with the ignition interlock, essentially that's a device that's a smart relay that sits between just the battery and the starter. And so the car is completely disabled until the app informs that smart relay to close and allow the car to start. So when that happens, they're required to take the breathalyzer. And at that point in time, we take a photo and we real-time push that photo into the cloud to indicate who was taking the breathalyzer, who's in the driver's seat, and who's starting the car. And then as they proceed along their route, we're tracking the route, we're tracking the speed. These little white ones that you see here are monitoring the speed and posting that, so you're able to see if they're exceeding the speed limit. And then also, we're taking a photo periodically just of inside the vehicle. So that's addressing that distracted driving piece. In Arkansas, the law is that if you're under 21, you should only be driving one non-family member. Okay? So we're able to monitor that through this by taking the picture, allowing the parent to view that and see what's going on. We also track it over time, so we allow the parent to be able to choose what time period they're looking at. They can look at it real time and track any immediate activity, but they can also historically go back and see where's the teenager been driving and then see the photos from those previous trips. And finally, we have a notification system that will sit there and when they pass the breathalyzer, it'll notify if they actually get onto their phone and interrupt the app. It'll post a notice there to say that they were either using social media or taking a phone call, and it'll post that there as well. So this is the primary component that the parent or guardian would use. So why buy this? We've kind of already addressed this, talking about the problem, but really our target market is there's two types of parents. Those that are parents of teens who have already had some type of incident, right? So there's an impetus for them to take action. As I mentioned, I'm a parent. I have 4 children that are of driving age. They're good kids. Love my kids. My 16-year-old son, he's 18 now, but he got his license at 16. Within a couple of months, he was late for basketball practice, early in the morning, forgot his shoes, came home to get his shoes, didn't want to make coach mad, so he decided to speed back to the gym. At that point in time, he got stopped. He was going in excess. Again, teenagers don't make wise choices, so here, rather than just run a couple extra laps, he decided to go 90 miles an hour down Cantrell, which then resulted that being in reckless driving. So his license was suspended for 6 months. So now that's something on me, because now not only do I get to go to court with him and and get chastised by the judge, but now I have to ferry him around to practice again for another 6 months. But the reality is the problem arose at the end of the 6 months. The court system said, okay, you did your time, you're good. He expunged his record because he went to the driving school, did everything he was supposed to do, and then they just sent us on our way. And then the question is, well, what do I do? As a parent, here I am. Do I just hand him his keys back and hope he doesn't do it again, hope he learned his lesson? Well, there's not a lot in the market today to help facilitate that. So this is part of why I got engaged with Soteria, so that I could be engaged with that and have another tool in the toolbox to say, okay, son, you'll get the keys back, but we're going to monitor that. And if we need to tighten down some controls related to if he were to be engaged with any alcohol, which fortunately, we haven't had an incident like that, but it's a very real possibility at their age. And so it gives us another tool to use that goes beyond just what is court mandated and actually puts some tools into the parents' hands. There's also, many of you may have heard kind of social phenomena of the helicopter parent. That parent that is kind of the modern day parent that really wants to stay close, hover over their children, provide lots of protection, and actually that's our target market. We won't be shy in saying that. We're looking for that helicopter parent who wants to be engaged with their student, doesn't want to just hand over the keys and hope for the best, but they want to be engaged there and help prevent something from happening rather than reacting to it after the fact. So those are kind of our two targets. And they both have a very innate reason to purchase the product and be engaged with the product. It's also the most comprehensive solution. We'll look in a second at the competitive landscape. In the competitive landscape, there's the court-mandated ignition interlock side, which is actually a more robust system in that it's heavier, it's more expensive to install, and actually you only get to lease it. You have to pay for it, and then you have to pay for it to be uninstalled. something like that, that's where that would be limited to. So yes, the primary brains of our product go with the individual. It's just the interlock device is tied down to any particular vehicle. Does that answer the question? Okay.
That's the second half mostly, but then the first half I didn't hear anything about. So the other thing is, like, you have 4 kids of driving age. I have 4 of driving. By the way, the key, everyone, if you have children that you're going to teach to drive, there's a simple rule we taught all of our kids. This is how you avoid trouble in a car. Don't hit things. Okay, that's all you really have to do. So, but the question is, okay, we have multiple cars, multiple drivers. I want it to be where hey, if you take Mom's car this time, the interlock device is in there. So I know which kid is, they have the ability to unlock the interlock.
Yes.
Using their app or however that, whatever the technical capabilities are. But then next time they're going to drive, the pickup or the Suburban or, whichever, but the interlock needs to follow them as well.
Yeah, so
Okay,
if
so then-
there's an interlock device in each vehicle,
Yeah.
then yes, they can start each vehicle and we'll know who's actually doing the starting because we're
And then-
capturing that.
And the other thing that I think might be valuable for you down the road is, are you collecting longitudinal data
Yes.
by driver to say, okay, how many lane changes, how many, what does that driving pattern look like over a 2-year period? And that's something you could sell to insurance companies too.
Yes, so it wasn't visible when we were looking at the dashboard. It kind of mentioned it, but right now the dashboard, we only had, one person on the dashboard. As a guardian, it would actually say Kyle's phone, Andrew's phone, Mariah's phone. It will show you that, and so you can choose which one you're looking at, and it does capture that longitudinally. You can capture up to 2 years of information, and that's both driving behavior, the photos, the GPS. So we are capturing that. And we do, and you're right, we haven't really mentioned it because we know we're early in this cycle, but we do believe that there would be great value of anonymizing and rolling up the data and providing it back to like the insurance industry or others who are engaged in that, because we're going to have a very rich data set of actual driving behaviors. So great point. Thank you.
Great question. Great product. I'm in the insurance industry, as we spoke about earlier. The fleet cars, I'm really interested in that because I've had 3 clients who have fleets, different clients, all have a car stolen in the last 24 months. But they have different drivers for that one vehicle. The interlock device, you're blowing into it. How do you, I'm not going to blow into something that, Joe blew into yesterday.
Right.
Is there a...
Yeah, so there's 2 different ways to address that. One is that these really are fairly inexpensive. So we could put a package together where you're getting multiples of these and they're actually given individually to drivers. There also is a small device that you can just slide over the blower section. It's just a little plastic cover, and so you could have those available and they just put a plastic cover on and go, so you could have them sitting in the dash or somewhere. So we do have the capability, and each driver, from a driver perspective, all they have to do is have the app registered on their phone, and then they would be able to interact with that car. So,
Make sure I understand. So driver gets in there, doesn't have the app activated, turns it off, car's not going to start.
Correct.
So the app's got to be activated, it's got to blow into it
Yep.
in order for this to work
Yes.
completely.
so there's
If you need some
active
betas,
participation by the
let me
driver.
know.
Huh?
If you need some betas, let me know.
Okay. Excellent.
Why did you decide to target children when it's good for everybody?
So our primary target is because, what we talked about at the beginning, that there's an epidemic, in my view, an epidemic where we have 1 in every 8,000 teenagers dying in a fatal car accident, and of those, over 30% are actually alcohol involved. So at the very root of it, we want to address that. We want to save lives, teenage lives. These are, you see it often, unfortunately, often in the news of just a young person that's involved, maybe a single vehicle, maybe multi-vehicle accident. It's tragic. It impacts the entire school, the community, and it's just unnecessary. And we can do something to help mitigate that. And so that's why our initial target market is that. Though we know it's applicable, as we said, in the commercial space and with adults as well. Okay. Husbands, yes.
So do you have to be connected to the internet to start a car? Do you have to have data?
No. You just have to have the Bluetooth connectivity to actually start it. We'll capture the information, and then once you have the connection to the internet, then it'll transfer that information up to the cloud. So you'll be in the car. You just won't have the monitoring. You just won't have the cloud monitoring if you don't have the data functioning at that point. Okay. But the actual mechanical interaction is through Bluetooth, so it's just between the devices. So you don't have to have that.
And so teenagers are notorious for breaking phones. So what happens if their phone is out of use or out of battery? Are they stranded at that point, or?
Unfortunately, yes. In the alpha version that we're MVPing, if their phone is out, it's just as similar as that they blew a negative on the breathalyzer. The car will not start. They'll have to contact their parent through some means to say, hey, I lost my phone. You got to come get me. So, that's onerous. It is something that we're looking at potential means to override that. Again, you've got to have some kind of connectivity, though, to override it remotely. If you put a mechanical override, teenagers are going to find it, and then you just negated the whole purpose. So that is the downside to the product.
So for additional questions, just a little reminder, if you can, no, you're great, carry on. Just talk like super close to the mic is my request, because it's loud and beautiful. Oh my God, it's wonderful.
I can hear that.
I have a question too. If you spoke to this, I apologize. The name, I'd like to hear about that. And also, the auto manufacturers, I know it's a long list of competitors. Obviously, there's a lot of activity in this space. Yeah. Is there action with the manufacturers? Have they taken a stance on this kind of technology?
Stance, I think you'll see if you look at, if you just watch commercials, I think Chevy just came out with some basic telematics that are built in. So on the passive side, they are. I think as an industry, we've not seen them really take active participation in the kind of the restrictive element of this, because they really want to appeal to the broadest audience, right? They don't really want to do something that's going to make you think twice about buying their vehicle, whereas this does have a restrictive component, which is that interlock device. When we were in Detroit speaking with the engineering firm, they did say, hey, once you get this kind of completed, built, and commercially available, come back to us and we'll be glad to introduce you to manufacturers. And that's one of our exit strategies, is that there's a possibility to OEM it, within a vehicle line. So. Which name? Soteria or Drive Along? Soteria. Mr. Henry might be able to speak more to that. It was already, I've been with the company about 10 weeks now, so it was already named Soteria. I think it was around the life-saving component. But. Yes. So that's kind of the basis there.
Other than having your driving privileges revoked, is there any incentive for the teenagers, maybe some redeemable rewards that they can use at local eateries or Starbucks, stuff like that?
We've not looked into that, so kind of a good behavior reward, that's a great idea for further incentive. We haven't looked at that yet, but I appreciate that. We'll lock that away. Yes, sir.
Love the microphone. The insurance,
Yes.
have those been kind of negotiated?
We're working on that right
discounts
now.
already in place, or what kind of?
No, we don't have the discounts in place yet. We are talking with insurance companies right now. Lars, who's on our board, he's actually deeply involved with the insurance industry. He's in Alabama and has a lot of contacts there, so he's already had some. And we're getting positive response.
Any feel for what that is that going to like cover the monthly cost?
10 to 15% of the premium is what they're looking at, which should come close to covering, depending on, the rate. It'll at least offset at least 50%. So worth having, for sure, as a parent, I'll say.
So let me make sure I understand. So somebody has to have the app active on their phone and get in the vehicle before the vehicle will start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the hardware piece is that piece?
Yes.
The starting the car, not starting the
Yes,
car?
this is the interlock, so it keeps the car from starting unless it's communicated from the app via Bluetooth to say, close the relay. That's why we call it the smart relay. So it's open, it won't allow any electrical pass until
So that forces the teenager to have the app active?
Yes.
So they can't just turn the app off or?
No, yep. They've got that. Like I said, my son's testing it right now. Of course, he wanted me to pay him for it. I said, no, your privilege is that you get to have the car. So I actually get a notification every time he gets in the car to go somewhere, because I'll get a notification that says the breathalyzer was passed, and I get a little ping. I can look at it, and I'm, so this morning he went to basketball practice. As he's leaving practice, he starts the car, I get a ping. Okay, I know he's on the road. If I chose, I could then go pull up on my phone or on my desktop and actually live view his route and his speed associated with that.
So follow-up question, if he wants to let his friend borrow the car, if the friend has the app and activates it, can that happen?
It could potentially happen, yes. At that point, the friend would have had to have had a subscription for that, because you can't activate the app except for through our system, and it has to be tied to a parent account.
Unit.
So their parent would have had to do that, and at that point, we probably would have said, hey, if you're both blowing on the breathalyzer and you're good, you can drive the car. I mean, I'd rather have that than his friend go drive it somewhere else. So.
So you've got the car started, you got the app open. Can you then close the app and then drive the car?
Yes, once the engine's started, it'll stay active, because it's just at the starter point. So we're not actually disabling the vehicle while it's moving. Some of the ones that are in the commercial space that are court mandated have that capability where they'll actually shut the car down. Again, this is just a tool for the parent to help monitor and teach, and so we're not actually actively creating a situation that could cause more challenge than not.
Yeah.
So once it's started, they're able to do that. We recognize that there's opportunities for kids to go around the system, right? But we're capturing enough points that even if they do, at least the parent has some notification and understanding of that. So if they hand their phone to a friend and say, hey, start the car, blow on this for me so that it'll start and then switch out, that can happen, and that can happen almost in any situation. There's ways around all the technologies that are out there. The challenge there is that, one, you've got a friend that's not a very good friend then, because you're saying, okay, you're not good to drive, but I'll help you drive, so it's a huge teaching point, and that's really what we're driving at, is that we're helping parents, or as we say in our tagline, empowering parents as they're training their kids on driving. So.
I think we've got time for last question. Yep.
So you're going to come up with 100 things like this, but I'm wondering if you've already thought about some shutdown times, and is it capable, because of the way the app operates, for me to say, okay, look, I don't want the car driven between 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. because you should be at school. You shouldn't be driving off, going whatever, or between X at night and X in the morning. Hey, look, I don't really want them getting up in the middle of the night and driving away, whatever.
Right. So yes, that's in our post-MVP in 1.1, 1.2, and you might have seen on the other piece, geofencing, one, understanding where they're going and kind of creating some boundaries electronically for that. The other is to be able to configure, yes, even when is it active, when can it even be activated, and either monitoring that or even just disallowing it. So. Chronofencing, there you go, I like that. Chrono fencing. Let's make sure we capture that.
Yeah, that is now trademarked, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. Yeah.
Chrono fencing. I like TM today,
Awesome.
right here. Yes.
Well, will you be able
Thank
to
you.
stick around for a
Yes.
minute and answer a couple questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, little log for Kyle. So you remember, back before we started, I asked you to think about who you know, right? Because that's part of what we do at this program is actually make introductions and connections from the people we know to today's presenter. So as a reminder, Kyle and his entire crew at Soteria, they're interested in talking to investors. They're interested in talking to auto industry contacts. Maybe they own a dealership. Maybe they manufacture cars. Any manner of thing. If they are an auto industry contact, that's probably a good one for him. If you know anybody who might be a possible installation partner, are there any requirements to that, Kyle? Okay, so someplace where they work on cars.
Auto audio, even a Best Buy, anybody that installs car stereos.
Okay.
They're fine, and obviously anybody.
Okay, so yeah, so if you know somebody who installs car stereos, is a car mechanic, has, as you say, a bay, and can lift a car and do things to it, they might be a possible installation partner. And then distribution partners. So that's going to be whom?
Really, any retailer that's focused on, parent-type products.
Okay. So potentially, once this is out, you could go and buy it off the shelf at Best Buy. Okay.
Install eBay.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So you guys have some ideas of people that you can connect to Kyle? Yes? Yes? So that's what the cards are for in front of you. If you'll flip the card over, just be sure that you write down the name of the person that you want to introduce to Kyle and give us your name and email address. I never ask for the other contact's information. We just send out a note to you and remind you, hey, Joe, you said that you were going to introduce your friend Susan to Kyle. Just a reminder to do that. That's all that we do. So next week at Lift the Rock, we have Power Technology. Some of you guys may know Walter Burgess. He has a fantastic family company that's been around for about 50 years, and they have a new offshoot of that company that is all about lasers, and specifically movie theater lasers. Apparently they're fantastic, and he's going to tell you all about that next week. So if you like movies, if you know any movie theater owners, if you are kind of a photonics nerd, you should come and talk to Walter next week. Otherwise, Kyle's going to be here. He's going to talk to you guys for a minute. I've got plenty of coffee, a couple of bagels. You're going to give the cards to me or Ashley so that we can make those connections, and we'll see you same time next Tuesday. So thank you.